Hello everyone, my name is Pete Wright with LexJet. Today I'm joined by our in-house technical expert, Michael Clementi, to talk about the HP Latex 630W. Michael, how are you doing today?
Hey, Pete, I'm great. How are you?
Great. Let's start by just getting a general overview of the HP Latex 630W and how it's different from the rest of the latex lineup.
So the HP Latex 630 and the 630W are HP's entry-level latex printers that took the place of the 115, 315, 335, and it's their newest model. So you're on Gen 4 inks, you're on their latest print heads. It's an excellent value point for a printer. If you're getting started, you want to add to a fleet, this is a great printer, and you can get white ink in it. So that's a new addition to the printers that really started at the 700, 800 series, and now they're giving it to their entry-level model as well.
So I know this machine has the overcoat feature. Can you talk to me a little bit about that feature?
Yeah, so they've started on the Gen 4 inks. In Gen 3, they've actually included that overcoat in the encapsulation of the ink. So you didn't have an option to turn it on or off. Now they have a separate cartridge that has the overcoat separated from the ink. So you have the ability to say, okay, well, the overcoat is there to protect the print. And so if I'm going to laminate, why add the overcoat? You're just adding another cost to your print. So now you can turn that overcoat off if you're going to laminate. Or if you're not going to laminate, and hey, I want extra protection on these decals and I don't want to have that extra step of lamination, you can throw that overcoat on, and then you can have an extra coating that will protect your print and give it the durability and scratch resistance extra step of that.
So I know that's one of the new features. Can you tell me what else kind of separates this model from the previous models that you already mentioned have been discontinued?
Yeah, so they've added another thing called HP Pixel Control, and that is a really cool revolutionary way of laying down ink. And they actually brought this on from their photographic machines, the Z9, the Z9 Pro. If you look at their printers, they have that pixel control on their photographic machines in their pigmented area. And now they brought it over to the latex because it did so much in revolutionizing how they were laying down ink. So normally it was a halftone process that were just separations of CMYK, and those all would be laid down in one pass. Now they're looking at it on a much granular level of pixels. So what they're doing is they're saying, okay, we can combine inks and look at it at a pixel level and drop those where those pixels are. And what it does for user is gives them much more control over dot placement, a much higher quality of print output. And we have a red pill, blue pill situation. I gave you the easy answer, but if you want the real deep dive, there's a great document on pixel control explaining it. We can try to give it out to our customers if you want to include it in this as a part of the information we give out. But it's just a great looking print now, and the way they can give you detail and gradients, smoother gradients. They can give you more detail and shadows. It's more of a photographic type of print now than it was before. So much better quality output.
So I know we're going to talk about a lot of the different features in this machine, but just to help them understand how those features are important before we go too much deeper in the features, talk to me about some of the applications that these machines are great for. That way, when we talk features, they're like, oh, okay, I get it.
Yeah. All the typical signage applications that you're going to do, car wraps, you can print a cast and do wrapping, bus wraps, car wraps. You can do banner materials. You can do cut decals, which actually brings up another topic. You can get the print and cut version too. Now they have an option for, which gives you a software that has cutting ability and gives you the ability to package a cutter with a printer. So on top of the decal, you can do wall murals, decor products like canvas. The sky's the limit, floor and window and wall, pretty much everything you would want to do, and also fabrics, which is pretty cool too.
All that with really great durability, no less.
Yeah. So your print quality and your durability all in one.
So you mentioned white ink. The W stands for white. That's obviously what that's there for. Talk to me about how having the white ink kind of expands the colors and the capabilities of this machine.
Yeah, so really the biggest factors are printing to clear materials and color materials. So if you have a black or a green banner material or fabric, and you want to either lay the white down underneath it or use it just on its own to create some really cool effects. I've actually seen people using clear materials like static clings and doing internal cooler graphics where they're printing the color first and then they're back flooding it, and they're doing a reverse so that it sticks on the inside of the window so that people can't get to the graphic on the outside of the window. And I've also seen some really cool applications with glass where you're doing a boardroom and they're doing spot white. And they're basically taking a gradient, which this white is super opaque, and they're doing a solid gradient from dark to light, and they're actually using it as a frost. So it's really cool in that respect, that you can actually temper the usage of the ink and do some really neat design work with it. And we have some images that we'll show on that. And then also what we're seeing is a lot of people doing wall covering, and they'll do silver foils and gold foils and different colored wall coverings, and they'll use that white to intermingle with the color, because when you have white behind a color, it actually blocks out that foil. When you don't, it actually mixes with the color and gives you kind of a metallic look to the color. So you can do some really neat design work, especially customization nowadays. It's all about customization, what you can offer that's different from everybody else. And designers are really just drooling at that white ink because they can do so much more when they have that extra component.
Yeah, the layered printing thing is just mind-boggling to me. The fact that they can put that white down and it's dry quick enough to then go back over the white and put other colors, and to be able to, like you said, in the past, if you wanted certain colors to show up a certain way on a clear substrate, if you didn't have that white, it just wasn't there, especially if you had like a logo for a company or something that had white in it. There was no way to represent that on a clear media before. So it's just a really neat technology.
Yeah, and the optimizer too. We didn't talk about that yet, but it's the generally, when you're talking about latex and how to use the optimizer, and that's a separate cartridge as well. But what it is it's a different charge than the ink, so that's acting as a magnet to hold the ink in place as it's being printed, and that's how they do the layering too. They're layering that optimizer to keep those inks held in place so that it can go through the curing module and cure all at the same time.
Now, the white ink is pretty intriguing to me, but one of the things that they incorporated with the white ink is the ink circulation. So talk to me about the white ink circulation, how that works, and why that's such a cool feature.
And it is super important because a lot of other printers out there with white have everybody knows this issue. White does dry faster on the print head, and the pigments do settle faster. And if you're not really upkeeping the maintenance on these printers out there with white, you're going to run into all kinds of manual maintenance that you have to do, and it's consistent. So it's on a daily basis. With what HP is doing with their system is they've built in a whole circulation process so that when you are using your print head, that's fine. It's in the printer being used. But when you're not using it, you're stowing it in a rotational chamber, and it's actually taking that white and it's circulating it through the head and keeping it fresh, and also through the system so that the white doesn't settle, which is huge. And that gets rid of 99% of all the maintenance that you really need to do. The only thing that really is still needing to be done is cleaning off the little prongs that sit where the print head sits. And that's normal maintenance. Really easy, and it's very, very little ask in regards to white and what you normally would have to do to keep the head clean and keep it going.
So outside of the circulation, are there any other ways that the high opacity white inks in the HP printer separates itself from kind of the competition out there that has white ink?
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking in regards to how white the white is, this is one of the whitest formulations I've ever seen. And that really does matter. I mean, it matters when it comes to the saturation of the color that you get from laying a color on top of it. It matters when you're trying to do your 3-layer printing and you're laying white color down. And that, process is really cool too, because you can then do, as long as it's the same shape of the thing behind it, you can put 2 different graphics on each side, or you can actually put a whole layer of white in the middle between those two. So the opacity is huge, especially for that 3-layer.
What type of businesses do you think would really benefit from a machine like this?
Man, I mean, it ranges from typical sign companies to indoor marketing companies that want to run their own printer for doing their own promotional stuff, to anybody who's really just targeting the commercial market with decor. You have a wide range of people that are doing this. And I've even got customers that are doing full canvas businesses with these, because you don't need to protect the canvas like with, other printer technologies out there. That the durability of the ink and the elasticity of the ink allows you to print canvas, not have to go through the step of coating it, and go right to your wrap, and you have a super durable product that will take all your packaging corners and do all that without scratching and scuffing and damage. So the sky's the limit. Really, you just need to call us and discuss with us what you're doing, what your plans are. We can point you in the right direction and make sure this is the right printer for you. But I really don't see any roadblocks to any type of industry that would want to get into this and use it as their main production machine.
And I think a lot of people be surprised about the image quality coming off of the machine. I think typically when you think latex or any of those type of technologies that are going to be safe for outside use, you're thinking, signage, and you're just thinking block letters on a solid color. It's not what we're talking about here.
Yeah, and a lot of that, and the kudos to HP with the pixel control. That's a big one that they've really been able to dial it up, and I can see that being a huge thing in the future, just included in every single printer that comes out from now on. But I can see that, the image quality is a lot to do with the pixel control, but it also has to do with their printhead technology. And they use a 5 printhead system. If you're getting a white, it would be 6. But the nice part about that is those printheads are user interchangeable, user replaceable. So, maintenance wise, this is one of the easier printers on the market to maintain. It doesn't require a lot of hands-on or any. I shouldn't say any hands-on, but I've been running this thing since its inception, and I really haven't had to do much of any type of maintenance other than, when I move back and forth with the white printhead. That's pretty much the only thing that I've done manually to this printer. It does have a system for the maintenance that has a cartridge. It's a maintenance cartridge. And when you're using that, it's different than other printers because it has all the maintenance components like docking for the head, the wiper pads, there's actually a fabric wiper in there that comes across and wipes the ink heads off. So everything you need maintenance wise that you would normally have to replace on other printers is replaced when it's a consumable. So you just replace that cartridge. Now you got a whole new docking station, a whole new wiper blade, a whole new wiper pad. So all that assembly in that one housing is really smart to use that type of feature and that type of cartridge for the maintenance because it's hands-free. So you do have things like lubricating the rail and that's a once in a 6-month period, but those things are just very elemental and they're very simple. So the user can do all of this stuff, not have to call somebody and wait for somebody to come out to fix the printer.
Yeah, I think one of the nice things is, you can just keep print heads and you could keep some of these other consumables just on the shelf so that if you do have something go down, you can just go over to the shelf, grab it, pop the old one out, pop the new one in. But my experience is when companies make that move and say, hey, we're going to let you do these things, it means they know that their product's just not going to fail that often. So it's just one of those things, hey, you could do it, but you're not going to have to very much.
Yeah.
Because they're just getting better and better. HP is just constantly raising the bar in terms of improving the quality of the products that they're making to make it so that it's more consumer friendly from a usage standpoint. One of the other things that they've been really good at is just being environmentally friendly. Mm-hmm. So talk to me about the HP Latex compared to maybe solvent, UV, those other outdoor technologies. What are they doing to become really environmentally friendly?
So HP Latex ink, they've always been at the forefront of environmental friendliness, and it's water-based ink. So you don't have to worry about, with other technologies, you'd have to bring your bucket of ink to a landfill and they'd have to dispose of it properly, separately from everything else. Right now, you could take a maintenance cartridge, put it in the plastic bag, put it right in the garbage. It can go right in the land. There's no leaking chemicals into the ground. You don't have to worry about any of that. So they've also made all their minimum amount of plastic usage out of every single packaging thing that they send you. So the print heads are in cardboard, the cartridges are now in cardboard. So they've tried to minimize the amount of plastic that they're using for their components and their printers and their consumables.
So a lot of times when companies decide to be environmentally friendly, there's a sacrifice somewhere. We've already talked about the print quality being great. What about our scratch resistance and things like that? Are we worried about that, or are we pretty solid?
Yeah, I mean, it's really coming down to the components in the ink, and the latex formula has been proven to be one of the highest durabilities of ink on the market, and they've really been able to tout that you can use that overcoat again to add it almost like a laminate. I would say there's still cases where you're going to use a laminate, like car wraps and things where, you've got actual things rubbing up against things and it's in a high use situation where it's going to be in a high traffic environment. A lot of floor graphics would be one I would still use laminate on, car graphics, that sort of thing. So, but their durability really is a testament of how they've built and constructed the ink to be that conformable and that durable right off the print.
So, brand new customer, I'm just getting into the business and I'm trying to decide what machine is right for me to start my business. What's the learning curve for me on this device? If I decide, you know what, I think the HP Latex 630W is the machine for me, but what's my learning curve going to be?
I would say it's on the easier side of things. And you're in the grand scheme of looking at all the equipment, all the software, everything available to you in this arena. They've done a really good job of keeping a database of available profiles and media settings online that you can just go on there, choose your 630 or 630W, say I'm using, adhesive vinyl. I could look through the list of adhesive vinyls that are available, download a setting, and then import it through the embedded web server really easily. So it's just a substrate import button, and you click in and choose your file that you just downloaded, and it's in your printer. And then you never have to touch it ever again. It'll live there forever. So I usually just, based on what I'm doing, I'll, for each type of category, have a media setting that correlates to my material that I'm using, and you'll get excellent color results right off of that media setting because it's all built in on how it's supposed to run.
Now, you mentioned software. What am I looking at? If I buy this device, do I then have to go out and buy a whole nother package of software to run it?
That's a great question. So HP packages Flexi with it's an HP version of Flexi that comes with the 630 and the 630W. And really, along with the ease of use, that's one of the easier rips to work with in regards to takes you step by step through. There's tabs that you go through one by one and just make sure all your presets are there and that your sizing is right. You can use cropping, you can do tiling for murals and such. So it is a very useful component that is given for free with the printer. It's included in the price of the printer. They also have an HP print and cut version. So if you're going to get the cut add-on with the printer, they actually have a really nice component that you can do contour cutting with. So I think that's personally one of the hardest things to learn from scratch is how do I, have this contour graphic with all these different curves and shapes, and how do I get that cut line in there, and how do I name it correctly, and how do I make sure that's the cut I want? Well, Flexi has one of the easier design programs that actually automates the line. So it has a find feature. So it'll find the curves and contours based on the pixel data. And then you can say, okay, I want that cut line inset by a 32nd of an inch, or however you want to offset it, or make that cut without cuts inside of the cut. There's a button for that. So it's really user friendly. It's very easy to edit, and it's just an excellent software to have partnered with a printer like this.
So speaking of learning curve, following up on what we just talked about, white ink is a new piece of technology that we're dealing with here. How hard is it to incorporate that into the prints that I'm creating?
So the RIP has an underflood button, an overflood. So it depends on where you're laying your white ink, but you can either do it by the pixel data where your actual image is, and there's actual pixel information, or you can flood back the whole back side of the layout. So you have options that are automated, but you can also design with spot colors where you want the ink to be. So you can do it either way. And that, I think they like that as far as, the ease of use and design. If you don't have a designer that knows how to use spot colors, you can do it yourself just by hitting a button. You can get really intricate if you do know how to use the Illustrator and do spot color design work, but you don't have to know how to do that.
All right. My last thought, where are my cost savings? It comes down to, where's the money? Are you putting your money where your mouth is? So comparing to other technologies, what are the cost savings like?
I think, you're going to talk about cost savings being in the same arena with all the other latex technologies, and your 1 liter ink tanks are going to help you save because you're buying ink in bulk. It's really a bulk system. I think time matters too when you're figuring out how fast I can print. You're up to 150 square feet on a usable print. And I think that, your media that you're going to be able to use, the conformability of media, being able to choose between adhesive on a fabric and not have to have 2 printers to do that. Because normally, fabric's usually done in a whole different 2-step process. Now you go direct to fabric and you cut out pieces of equipment, and you've added something to your repertoire of things you can offer. So I think, thinking inside of consumables and ink savings, they're minimizing the amount of overhead by only giving you 5 print heads, which other printers have more. So you only have 5 to 6 print heads to store on your shelf, and they made those print heads last a lot longer. So if you look at the generational thing, their boasting was that, hey, these print heads are going to last a lot longer now. So, you can get more use out of them, run more ink through them, and not have to replace them as often, which is another savings that they've tacked on.
Michael, thanks so much. You came to the table with so much great information. I always have a lot of questions, and you have more answers than I have questions. So it's always great speaking with you.
Yeah, it was fun.
If you have any questions about the HP lineup of latex printers, give us a call at 800-4-LexJet. And for all of your printer and supply needs, check us out at LexJet.com.